after I've been on the path for a number of years, this was in 2007, I worked with someone who dealt with past lives. And during this time I worked through lots of issues that I believed related to the past lives I'd had. However, even though I worked through a lot of stuff, my life didn't really change. So after that point, I basically came to the conclusion that past lives were a load of rubbish and they didn't affect me. And I ended up focusing on what had taken place in this life and working through that. And as time went by, I also came to see that my life was also being affected through what had been passed down from my ancestors. So it became more about this life and what had gone on for my ancestors than what supposedly took place in another life I may have had. And in 2014 I ended up meeting someone else who was very much into past lives. As soon as I met this guy, he came up with a life that I'd had in the past. And this is someone called Ian Bailey, who ended up went on to become a good friend of mine, and he, after this moment, and he matched me up with a life in the Vietnam War and said that I was killed during this time. And I was open-minded, as I usually am. I want to hear different views and hear about things I've never thought about. And even though I'd looked at past lives in the past, I was still open and willing to hear what he had to say. So he told me about this life and he told me about a number of others. And I became more on board with what he was saying. And then as time went by, I ended up coming into contact with a part of myself that seemed as though it had a memory of a past life. And I became aware of this part of me when I was doing inner child work. And it was like this part of me didn't feel neglected, didn't feel sad because of what happened in this life. It felt sad and was not in a good way because of what happened in another life. And through becoming aware of this part of me, it made me think how frustrating it must be to come into another life, because as a baby can't speak. And even if a baby could speak, it is unlikely that its caregivers would actually believe anything it had to say. So unless, of course, a baby is born into a family that is very aware, very spiritual, very connected to their spirituality, to be more accurate, then it's not going to be able to get anything out. And then I think that as time goes on, this part of us ends up being pushed down and we lose touch with it. But even though it's normal for someone to lose touch with it, this part can still affect how they feel and what they experience. So it's not a case of, well, this has been forgotten about, so it doesn't matter. In the same way, what happened during the early years can be pushed down and forgotten about, but it doesn't mean their effect is neutralized. They can still have these parts of ourselves that were split off because of trauma during the early years can have a huge effect on our adult life. And what trauma does is cause us to experience inflammation, which is classed as one of the big causes behind diseases. And I saw the other day that they're saying about, might seem like I'm going off topic here, but just to finish off, I was reading the other day that they found that one of the big causes of depression is inflammation. And as I see, a lot of these problems we have as adults go back to our early years. So if someone did experience a lot of trauma and therefore they had all this inflammation as a child, it's going to be normal then for them to be depressed and for their gut and their mind, for their whole system to be completely in a mess. So coming back to the past life part here, hearing it from others is nice and we might be able to relate to it, but if we can actually connect to that part within us, then it makes obviously a world of difference and we can actually see that there's something to this. So what I would say is, if you have found that certain challenges won't really shift and you can see that it doesn't relate to your early years or even your ancestors, then perhaps it could go back to a previous life. And one way to resolve this is through past life regression. I haven't experienced this myself, but it's meant to be one way of doing it. But another way is to, which is what I've been doing, is to get in touch with myself and to go deep down and to connect with the parts of myself that are still carrying that pain, and to allow these parts to speak out and to cry out this pain. So see if you can relate to any of this, and if you can, give it a go, see what happens, and you might make a big shift.